It can't be. There's a global economic crisis. It comes out of the lawful workings of the capitalist system. It's a contraction of production and trade. And we're not going to mess around with the tax system and fix the economy. The stimulus hasn't worked. That's established. How many billions and billions of dollars can you print up, throw at the banks, and say create jobs? Well, the jobs haven't been created. The problem is not certainty in tax codes or certainty in regulations. The problem is that we're in an economic crisis. So the question for the working class is, what are we going to do? How are we going to defend ourselves against the consequences of an economy and a government that represents those that are simply trying to shore up their profit system at the expense of working people? One thing I will say is that I hope that coming out of this election, whether it's Obama or Romney in the White House, well, I do know the one thing, we're not going to fix the jobs question with Obama or Romney in the White House, but I do hope we continue to have divided government, because it makes it harder. It makes it harder for this government to continue to batter the working class. And so that's the one hope I have. I'm not telling anybody to vote for Democrat or Republican. I think that'd be a big mistake. I think that you should vote for your class interests, and the one party that's putting that forward is the Socialist Workers Party. But let's hope that the Democrats or the Republicans don't have control of the White House and Congress.
All right, thank you very much, David. And now we go to Congressman Leonard Boswell.
Well, Mike, thank you. So we have no opportunities in this discussion tonight to respond to things that are innuendos and untruths.
You do have a closing statement, 2-minute closing statement at the end.
2 minutes, okay. Well, anyway, so we've heard about misrepresentation of the Medicare. We've heard about misrepresentation of FEMA. Apparently, I can go ahead and say, well, gosh, Mr. Latham is against alternative energy. Wow. So, now back to the continuous Bush tax cut. That was your question.
Yes.
Well, I didn't support those, but you know what, the situation came of this extension and what happened to the middle class as we're in this recession. But, you know, it did. I didn't support the Bush tax cuts when they were first brought forth, but, you know, we got to this situation we're in. So we had this recent situation, and you know, the middle class could not take it. The high income can and would, and so we're on this extension situation. But, you know, I do not support the continuation of the Bush tax cuts, if you will, when it comes to those making over $250,000. I think we have to take a hard look at that and see what we can do. And I don't have the wealthy people, the few that I know, coming to me and saying, "Oh, I need a tax break." That's not happening. We all share together. We can put this country back on its feet. We can do it quickly. We've done it in the past. We can do it now, and that's what I would hope that we would do. And again, the version of Simpson Bowles would be a departure point.
Okay, Congressman, your time is up.
We ought to take that approach.
All right, Leonard, thank you very much. On to our next question. This has to do with a topic that was very much prominent in the debate last night between President Obama and Mitt Romney, and it's a women's issue, but an issue for a lot of people. Do you support a constitutional amendment to ban abortions, except in the cases of rape and incest, as well as a reduction in federal aid for Planned Parenthood? And we start this round of questioning with Congressman Tom Latham.
Well, I have a 100% pro-life voting record. I support what we call the Hyde Amendment, which is the exception for rape, incest, or the life of the mother. And I think where that applies and should apply with the federal government is in the funding areas to make sure that what they call Mexico City policy, that we're not funding abortions overseas. It's a moral issue, and I will always be pro-life.
All right, thank you very much, Congressman. And we go now to David Rosenfeld.
I'm 100% in support of a woman's right to choose abortion. Without the right to control reproduction, without the right to control her body, women cannot achieve full social equality in the society. Since Roe versus Wade legalized abortion in this country, there's been a non-stop attack on that right, eroding it year after year after year. Any kind of idea that putting your faith in so-called friends of women politicians to defend this, I think has been shown to be an error. The question of access to abortion is tremendously important. Abortion is a medical procedure. It should be treated as such. It should be accessible to any woman, regardless of her income or financial capacity to pay for it. There should be funding. The Hyde Amendment needs to be overturned. Constitutional amendment to ban it? Absolutely not. But we do need to extend it and make sure that abortion is available to all women, regardless of income, regardless of where they live. And we also need to speak out against the terror that abortion providers are subjected to. There can be no common ground with those that defend the murder of abortion providers. I stood with those that protested the murder of Dr. Tiller in Kansas, was part of forming a human chain around the funeral for Dr. Tiller so that the families and others wouldn't be exposed to the right-wingers that were supporting that.
Okay, David, thank you very much. Now we go to Congressman Leonard Boswell. Leonard?
Well, thank you, Mike. No, I do not support a ban on abortion. I respect women and their ability to choose. I think we ought to do as much as we can to help them be educated and helped. Planned Parenthood has done a good job on that. So back to the other part of your question, yes, I support the funding for Planned Parenthood. I think it's worked. I think it will continue to work, and we'll go forward. This idea of just standing and opposing life and so on it's time to sit down and say, women are able to make a decision. They share in our society in every respect, and you've got to have some trust. I trust my daughters. I trust my wife. I trust women, and I think that having some elected official decide a woman what she's going to do and with her life is just uncalled for and unnecessary. Yes, we ought to help with the education and the ability for them to be able to make good decisions, and I think we're capable of that. It's time for us to get it done.
All right, thank you very much, Leonard. And now we go to Scott Thatcher. Scott?
Oh, thank you. Basically, you're asking two different questions: Planned Parenthood and abortion, and those are two distinctly different things that I need to comment on. Planned Parenthood, funding Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood does a lot of good things outside of abortion for the general public. They're not just abortion. There's a lot of education they prepare for and everything else. However, my position is I'm pro-life. And I am not in favor of abortions except for in case of incest and rape and so forth. There again, I think that when we look at funding Planned Parenthood, are we funding all companies like Planned Parenthood for their increased education? Because the more we educate the public, the less abortions are going to occur. We're going to reduce that number the more we educate the public. And doing away with that education is not what we need to do. We need to come up with better plans and better ideas instead of just attacking a group like Planned Parenthood. There again, yes, they do abortions, but yet I'm not for them, but it's not a reason to shut them down and stop the funding.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. Our next round of questions concerns foreign affairs. This one specifically has to do with trade. The question is, what sort of a relationship should the United States have with China in terms of trade? We begin our questioning in this round of questioning with David Rosenfeld. David?
Well, this election season seems to be also China-bashing season. Everybody wants to bash China. But what's really going on here is an attempt to pit workers against each other. And workers are in a position of competing with each other, both domestically and internationally. But we can't fall into the idea that the workers in China who are being super exploited with their cheap labor are our problem. They're in fact the ally of working people. We have to reach out in solidarity with them. The nationalistic bashing of China does not advance the international solidarity of the working class. When I look at the workers at the Foxconn factory, the one that makes the iPads and the iPods, beginning to stand up and to fight for their rights, the scuffle that just took place with the security guards, the efforts to organize unions, I see those workers as my fellow brother and sister workers. Those are the ones that we need to reach out to and say, right on, hallelujah, you're entering the struggle of workers around the world. We join with you, but the point isn't to deny you jobs. The point is to advance the conditions and solidarity of working people around the world.
All right, David, thank you very much. And now we go to Congressman Leonard Boswell. Leonard?
Well, Mike, I support fair trade, and I think that's something that we need to address. We haven't done a very good job of it. I've watched carefully. I was still in the legislature when NAFTA took place, and you look at the balance of, you can't look at just one entity. We've got to look at the whole pie chart and what has been good for the country. Has the country benefited? And we seem to get peeled off looking at one particular entity, what it might be, and what is the whole picture. And the jobs, when I went through the situation of Maytag, and we've seen some of the other things that have happened in our state and across the country, you have to say, is there fair trade? Some of us, because of our experiences around the world, I've seen what's happened to child labor. I've seen what's happened with currency, manipulation. And as we sat and talked with the World Trade Ambassador, if you will, during this last process, I never got any satisfaction on those two issues. And I think it's something that every Iowan that I know, we talk about it, they're concerned about, whether it's that child labor or whether it's the currency manipulation, and what's the net result for the country. And so I think that we need to pursue trade. I'm all for that, for pursuing fair trade.
All right. Thank you, Leonard. Now we go to Scott Batcher. Scott?
Thank you. China is a very interesting thing, and if you watch the debates, the last debate was very much filled with China talk. And we're in a situation to where we have China that's funding our deficit, and then we have China that is doing child labor. And what we need to do is we need to start working out a program to where I know that if we bring goods into China, our goods are taxed at a high percentage rate. We need to do the same thing to China, that anything they send to the United States is taxed at that same high rate. We need to go after China is how they go after our free commerce, and we need to go after them. You also have to realize that which companies are hiring those people in China? U.S. companies. If you want to stop that, then the government has to start passing regulations to not allow that to happen, to go in. We had problems years ago in Malaysia and so forth with child labor laws and so forth, and we did nothing about it. If we need to get something done about it, we need to do something in Washington and take action as quickly as we can and do the right action, which is going to benefit the American public.
All right, thank you, Scott. Now, Congressman Tom Latham. Tom?
All right, thank you, Mike. China is an extraordinarily important trade partner to us, and you look at Iowa agriculture, pork, soybeans, corn that goes to China is an extremely important market to us. Now, having said that, and we need to keep that trade going, but we also have to have free and fair trade, and that means China's got to be held accountable as far as their currency manipulation. They purposely keep the valuation low to make their products less expensive on the world marketplace, and we have to hold them accountable, and that's supposedly what the World Trade Organization is for, when we file a complaint for them to act and hold them accountable. But it's very frustrating to me when I see money, like in the stimulus spending. I'm a big supporter of wind energy and renewable energies, but our competition is China. And a lot of the money that from the stimulus actually is like the electric battery car company yesterday that got $249 million grant from a U.S. government and went out of business, filed bankruptcy yesterday because they couldn't compete with the Chinese. And it is simply wrong. The waste of money, the money that is being spent, U.S. dollars in China under stimulus is supposed to create jobs here, as they've grown jobs in China.
All right, Congressman, your time is up. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the war in Afghanistan. The question, gentlemen, is, do you support the current plan to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan in 2014? Congressman Leonard Boswell, you're up first.